On this week's episode of the Ryan Canfield Show, we preview Michigan versus Michigan State. We break down each team and what we expect to go down on October 30th. We also look at your responses on Instagram for the entirety of Week 9 college football. It's all coming up on the Ryan Canfield Show. All right, welcome to the second episode of the Ryan Canfield Show. I'm your host, Ryan Canfield, joined by my co-host, Drew Lawler. Drew, how are we doing?
Doing fantastic. Great day. Half day of school. In the new studio. Could not be better, Ryan.
True. We are in the new studio in the RCS HQ. We will have some visual stuff coming soon. We just got to get that technology. So yeah, this week, Michigan and Michigan State. October 30th, big noon Saturday on Fox. Drew, are you excited?
I'm excited. I'm not a fan of
Coming from a Purdue fan, are you excited?
Yeah, not a fan of either team, but an in-state rivalry is always good in any state, but especially in this hometown. It should be a really good matchup, or at least on paper. I don't think it's going to be a close game, but hopefully I can get up to East Lansing, see some of the pregame, and hope for a good game.
True, there's a lot of pregame going down. You got the Barstool Show, which I've already been to. We've already been to that this year at Michigan-Washington. But game day, which is kind of mid, honestly. Game day is kind of falling off. And then Big Noon, which is on the rise. So yeah, want to just jump right in to this game?
Let's go for it.
All right. So we're going to talk about the bright spots of Michigan's offense and defense, and I guess special teams as well. So I want to start with Michigan's offensive line. Michigan's offensive line is elite. Probably top 5 in FBS. You just got guys that are experienced. You got super seniors like Andrew Vistardis. You got guys like Carson Barnhart, Paw, Michigan. Shout out Catherine. Catherine, if you're listening, I miss you. Yeah, so we got, not we. If you guys know me, you know how I stand on the language of referring to teams. You don't say we. So yeah, Michigan's offensive line is very good. Next, I want to move over to the running back. So the first couple of weeks, we got our first real taste of Blake Corum. I know he played a little bit in last year's. Well, he had a touchdown in last year's game, and he had the first play from scrimmage last year was Joe Milton threw something to him in the flat. But that's really all we saw of him, meaningful. We saw Blake Corum. So when he played against Washington and he had that 80-yarder, I think it was at least 80 yards, Hassan Haskins was pushed to the side. I know he had a couple touchdowns in that game, but he was pushed to the side. And then, so Blake Corum, all the hype from Blake Corum, shadows Hassan Haskins, who I still think is an NFL back, because we saw that in the Nebraska game, Hassan Haskins is still one of the better running backs in the Big Ten, maybe even the country. I wouldn't go that far, but the Big Ten might be top 5. Both Blake Corum and Hassan Haskins top 5, because with that hurdle, and also in the Northwestern game, which we were at, amazing experience. I've been there many times, but Drew, was it a good time?
It was a good time. It was my first time. Been there a few times. Haven't been to a close game yet, which hopefully at some day. I haven't really seen a close football game in general in person. But yeah, it was a fun time.
The Northwestern game. Oh, sorry. What were you going to say?
No, go ahead.
All right, sorry. We're trying to work on that. But listen, Hassan Haskins, Blake Corum, they're just thunder and lightning, what we've known since week 1. Hassan Haskins, as I was going to say, in the Northwestern game, that huge barrel push with everybody on top of him. Everybody just climbing on top of him, and he just keeps going. He's just the power back. And then thunder and lightning. Blake Corum is the lightning. He's so fast. He's just as physical, but he's just shorter. He's a little bit more muscular, and he's faster. So next, I want to talk about the receivers. Michigan's receivers, I'm going to be honest, have gone through a little bit this year. Ronnie Bell, out week 1, in a play he shouldn't even been on the field for. I think AJ Henning should have been taking taking punts since week 1. If Ronnie Bell's not in that position, Michigan's receivers are looking a lot better. But I will say, Cornelius Johnson is having a great year. He had a long tutty against Northern Illinois, which is, Northern Illinois. But he had a great game against Wisconsin. He had the flea flicker, and then he had a touchdown in second half, a throw from Cade into the back corner of the end zone. So yeah, and he can do it all. He's not as fast as Ronnie Bell, but he's all we got. Not we. He's all Michigan has right now, and especially with the Roman Wilson injury, which is our next point. The Roman Wilson injury causes Andrell Anthony to see a lot of action in the second half of the Northwestern game. Who I didn't think played terrible. Andrell, true freshman. I know he and JJ, and I'm not sure the other. There are 3 players that have been putting in quote unquote work after games, like after the Nebraska game. They got off the plane, got back to Al Glick, and they were just throwing. So I'm pretty sure. Can you want to check that real quick? JJ McCarthy and Andrell putting in work, and it pays off for him. So yeah, he played okay. He had a couple catches. Now let's switch over to the defense. Daxton Hill, Aiden Hutchinson continue to show us that they are NFL players. I think Aiden Hutchinson's Defensive Player of the Year in the Big Ten. Daxton Hill, one of the better backs. My one fear with Michigan's defense is their defensive backs, or their back 4. I don't know if that's what it's called, but the front 7 of Michigan is amazing. Josh Ross having a pretty good year. He had a bad Nebraska game, but he had all the other games, he's been playing really well. And then another player that I saw that gives me a little bit of promise for the defensive backs, after watching last year's game especially, which we will get into in a little bit, is DJ Turner. DJ Turner had that awesome pick, that bobble pick, in the second half of the Northwestern game. He played pretty good against Nebraska. So judging from his performance the last couple of weeks to what happened last year in the game in Michigan State, gives me some hope, because I don't trust Vincent Gray and Jamon Green after what happened last year. Because what Michigan State did last year, they just threw the ball up to Ricky White, who I don't even think is part of the program. I'm pretty sure he got hurt, but that's all I heard about it. And I don't even think he's part of the program anymore, which I don't think is true. But we'll clarify on that. But they just threw it up looking for flags after the first couple of times that Rocky threw it. And if they didn't get the flag, they probably caught the ball, and it was at least a 30-yard gain. So DJ Turner, giving Michigan's secondary some hope. Now let's look over to Michigan State. We all know about the Mel Tucker rumors after, people think that Mel could leave, after promising that he would stay at Washington, lying to the recruits. Oh, yeah. No, Drew, say what you were going to say. Say what you're going to say, Drew. Drew just mouthed something to me. Drew, what do you think you were going to say? What were you going to say?
What? I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah, did you know Mel Tucker, he lied to his recruits at Colorado?
Yeah, Colorado. You said Washington.
What?
You said Washington.
Oh, my goodness.
That's what I was going to say. But yeah, Colorado, Mel Tucker.
Okay, we'll edit that out. But, anyway. Did I say Washington, really?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. It's 10:30, folks. All right. So, listen. He could go to LSU. I haven't seen anything about USC. That's more James Franklin's area. But it would be funny to see him leave. But I don't think he will. To be honest, to be like a real Michigan fan, he's not going to leave everything he's built in 2 years. He's got a top 10. He's got a couple. Well, last year, his only wins were top 15 wins. He beat Michigan, who was 13, and then the Northwestern, who was 8 at the time, because Northwestern, they won the Big Ten West. And then he's number 8 right now. Drew, can you fact check? 8 or 9?
Michigan State's number 8 in the country.
Number 8? Okay, so Michigan 6, State is 8. So now let's talk about State's impact players. There are 4 players that concern me on State's offense, not including Peyton Thorne. And here they are. Kenneth Walker, who we talked about last week. Don't really need to explain that. But Jalen Naylor and Jaden Reed. Again, Jaden Reed, he played at Western for a year and then transferred to Michigan State. So yeah, they're a speedy tandem in any part of the field. If Peyton Thorne gets that ball to him, it's going to be a little bit for Michigan's corners to... It's going to take a little bit of willpower to tackle him. Or at least get them in places where they can slow down. And it's just... They scare me a lot. They really do. And then Jaden Reed, he's a punt returner, as we saw in the Nebraska game, and I think in the Western Kentucky game. He had returns for touchdowns. He's fast. Jaden Reed and Jalen are 2 of the fastest players in college football. They're both downfield threats, as we just said. And then Connor Hayward, who in 2019-2018, he was a running back, and then he put on some weight to play tight end. Looks pretty big out there, I'm not going to lie. And I want to note that he was going to transfer. He was in the transfer portal in 2019 after the meteoric rise of Elijah Collins, who I believe is still on Michigan State, but I don't think does that much because Kenneth Walker has been doing everything so far. So now I want to talk about State's defense. Is State's defense any good? I don't really think so. They got one player that I think is an NFL player, and that's Xavier Henderson. I think that he's one of the better corners in the Big Ten, one of the better defensive backs in the Big Ten, and that's really all it for Michigan State's D. I'm not scared by Jake Panashuk or whatever. I think there were 2. Oh, it's Jacob Panashuk, who has been at State forever. So his brother was there forever too. But State's defense does not scare me. I think Michigan's offensive line will have their way with State's defense. The only thing that Michigan can do to hurt themselves on offense is turnovers. When Cade McNamara doesn't throw the ball very well, that's when... I meant that Cade McNamara doesn't turn the ball over very much. That's going to be the only factor. If he just gets a little shaky, I'm not sure if the atmosphere in Spartan Stadium will be that hectic because it'll be at least 60-40 or 70-30 fan ratio. So yeah. All right, so now we want to get into a little team comparison. So I saw TikTok. I might still have it saved on my phone. I'll check if I still have it. But it says Michigan State team comparison by each position. Oh, here it is. I found it. So it says Michigan versus MSU comparisons on quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, O-line, D-line, linebacker, cornerback, safety, kicker, and punter. Michigan, from this TikTok, which I don't really agree with, which we'll get into in a second, says that Michigan State only has Michigan beat on quarterback and running back. And in running back, it is abbreviated with running back room, which I don't really agree with. I mean, the tandem of Corum and Haskins is better than one Walker, but I still think that Kenneth Walker can make a play quicker than either of them. So, I think Michigan has Michigan State beat on everything except quarterback, running back, and receivers. And here is where it gets tricky with quarterback. Peyton Thorne is better than Cade McNamara. Peyton Thorne is not better than J.J. McCarthy. Drew, I want to ask you a question about J.J. McCarthy. As a Purdue fan, a non-Michigan fan, outsider looking in, what do you think about J.J. McCarthy? Do you think the hype is real? 4-star coming out of IMG? Or 5-star? 5-star, 5-star.
I haven't seen him that much, but he did play against Northwestern last week a little bit. He did some nice plays. He had that huge gain in rushing with some spin moves. So I thought he looked pretty impressive. He's a young quarterback, though, so I would stick with Cade at least to start this next game.
I agree. So Cade has the locker room leadership, but does he have the on-field leadership? Like when things get tough, let's say State goes up and because Michigan hasn't been fazed by anything yet. Because as you saw with the jump around, as you saw with the Nebraska fourth quarter light show, Thunderstruck, or I don't even know what song it was. I don't remember. Michigan is not fazed by anything. They have that kind of toughness, that emotional toughness, that will be tested by State because, it's an in-state rivalry. They'll try to get in their head. There'll probably be some scuffles on kickoff or on opening kick, and then things might get physical. So does Cade McNamara have that physicality and strength inside of him? Because we know that J.J. McCarthy's been wanting to play at Michigan. He's been committed for a while, even before the season. He did say some stuff last year about when Harbaugh was thinking it, or people wanted Harbaugh out. JJ was like, give him a chance. It's all trust the process thing. I listened to it, but people didn't want to because, this guy's, he's not even here yet, that kind of stuff. But we know JJ has that kind of mentality. I think he has the capability to go win this game for Michigan because I know how he plays. I just think people say, he's a true freshman. I don't think he's ready for it. I disagree with that. I think he can go win this game. But, Drew, what do you think about Cade McNamara?
I think he's a fine quarterback. I don't think he's a Heisman. But, I guess he's doing what he's supposed to. Michigan's 7-0 for a reason right now, so he's not playing that bad. And I get how Michigan fans, I saw some of them at the game on Saturday, really vocal for JJ to come into the game.
There was some chance.
Yeah, and I do, in that blowout, you should definitely play. And if Cade's not playing good on Saturday, JJ should come in immediately. Because it's not like he's some completely unproven guy. But if you have to go maybe 2 quarterbacks, which I did a little bit against Northwestern this week.
It's kind of like the situation with Georgia, because Georgia has 2 quarterbacks. Stetson, who's been playing, Georgia's still the best team in the country, but with JT Daniels, who's still hurt, he's always hurt, honestly, but when they get into deeper November and December, does Stetson Bennett win the SEC championship game against Alabama's defense? That's when the point I'm trying to make is that I don't think Cade will probably get phased against, Penn State. If it's not a whiteout, which could be, I don't think Penn State's allowed to have that many night games in a season. But the point I'm trying to make is that Cade can't, I don't think he can win in late November. But we don't know if JJ can either. So it's exciting to see how it all plays out. So in conclusion, Peyton Thorne, better than Cade McNamara. J.J. McCarthy, I think, is better than both. And then running back, Kenneth Walker, we know that. Wide receiver, which we did talk about a little bit, Jaden Reed, Jalen Naylor, who I think his nickname is Speedy. I'm pretty sure that's his nickname, coming from State Twitter. But, yeah, if Ronnie Bell plays in this game, as we just talked about, it's a little bit different. But you're going to need to rely on some juniors and some sophomores. If Roman Wilson plays, Roman Wilson can maybe bring Michigan's offense back to life, because he's been hurt for a little bit. But a guy that I have not seen enough of in three years so far is Mike Samersville, and we know he can because he had that amazing catch in the Nebraska game. He's fast. He's a little bit shorter than a Cornelius Johnson, or for reference, a Donovan Peoples-Jones, but I still think we got something to prove with him, or not we, that he still has something to prove. He can change this game. And then, so that's really it for the comparison. Also, I did promise we would talk about special teams. Jake Moody has missed, I believe, if you want to fact check that, Drew, you can fact check Jake Moody's stats. I believe he's only missed one field goal, and that was in garbage time last week. And then Matt Coughlin, who's been at State forever. If you take a look at Matt Coughlin's picture that they show, like with the graphics through the years from 2017 or 18 all the way to now, pretty remarkable. So we'll get this stat about Jake Moody real quick, and then we'll move on. You didn't even type in his name right. Okay, whatever. Okay, so who wins and why? Listen, here is how Michigan can win. As we talked about, I think Michigan's offense needs to shut everybody up. We know Michigan's front seven, at least, can play well and just get pressure on Peyton Thorne. They could stop Kenneth Walker. But Michigan needs to set the tone with the running game. With Hassan and Blake. And then to test Michigan State secondary by maybe getting some deep shots out there to Cornelius or Mike Samersville or maybe Andrell Anthony. I'm really excited to see how Andrell Anthony takes part in this offense because he's a true freshman, and as we talked about earlier, we know he's putting in the work. I mean, it seems like he wants to play. And I mean, if I had the talent, I'd be wanting to play too. I'd be telling Josh Gaddis to get me in there. So I think the receiving game can play a big part as well. And then Jake Moody must stay hot. And then don't shoot yourself in the foot on offense. Or on defense as well. Like penalties. PIs on defense will probably win Michigan State this game. And I'll talk about that in a second. And then how Michigan State can win, or no, how Michigan loses the game for themselves. Just said penalties. Don't let Peyton Thorne throw looking just for the flag rather than the catch. As I am alluding to the 2020 game with Rocky, and how he was just chucking balls up there. Vincent Gray and Jamon Green, I don't have much trust in them. So just play good defense. And don't give the refs a reason to throw a flag. And then don't let Kenneth Walker bust your tail. Make him work for every yard. I know Aiden Hutchinson wants this game more than anybody. With this revenge tour kind of like mentality. This is nothing close to the revenge tour team. I think that team is a lot better than this team, but they have that mentality. They like to shut people up with what they've been doing so far. And then how Michigan State empowers Michigan. No, sorry. How Michigan State powers themselves over Michigan is a 3-sequence offense. Run, throw, the traditional Harbaugh offense. Gain short fields and then check downs and long shots. And then a throw, run, and then a throw or a run depending on yardage. I don't think Michigan will expect a first down nuke or a 10-yard pass with the capability that Kenneth Walker has. So yeah, that's basically all we have for the preview. Now it's time to look at our community polls on Instagram. You can follow the show on Instagram at the Ryan Canfield Show. We appreciate everybody for voting. Here we go. Are we ready to preview Week 9, Drew?
Of course.
All right, let's do it. No, you read the games off to me like we did last week. We're still learning here. What?
You want to start off with a big game or end with it?
No, we'll end with it in the order of the polls on Instagram.
All right, let's start off with the nooner on ABC. Tulane played a very good game against Oklahoma this year. Is playing host to number 2 Cincinnati coming to town. Ryan, thoughts?
Listen, this game is a trap game for Cincinnati. I'm a big Cincinnati guy. I love Desmond Ridder, as we talked about last week. But Tulane, New Orleans college football team, I think Tulane keeps it close. They might even have a lead into the fourth quarter. But Cincinnati pulls away late. But I do like Tulane to make this interesting. What's the line here? I didn't put a line on this. Drew, can we check a line real quick? What are your thoughts on this game? I think Cincinnati wins late.
Cincinnati is going to destroy Tulane. You said trap game. You can't really have 2 trap games in a row.
I disagree.
Cincinnati should have lost last week. They're smart now. Cincinnati is favored by 24.5.
24? Take Tulane. Take Tulane in that game.
I think Cincinnati is going to cover. Cincinnati knows they need to win this big after last week to get everyone off their butts. So.
The thing about Cincinnati is that if they just win, they're in. But if they lose, they have no help. They just need Notre Dame to keep winning. They need teams that they've beat just to keep winning. And I don't think Indiana's going to keep winning, but Notre Dame has a chance to keep winning. But Cincinnati just needs to win, and they're in. They went out, they're in. I think, do we know if they play SMU this year?
Cincinnati?
Yes.
They do.
Okay, well, that'll be a big one coming up. So I take Cincinnati late. We'll pull it away. Do you think Cincinnati just blows the doors off from start?
It'll be a blowout.
Okay, next game.
Coming up, another noon game over on the Big Ten Network. Indiana going on the road at Maryland. Maryland favored by 3.5. But both teams, this is the bottom of the Big East game with these 2 teams in Rutgers.
Big Ten East. But you said Big East.
Big Ten East.
It's okay, though. We're still learning here, folks. But listen, Indiana. I have kind of developed a big... If you know me, you know that I want to go to Indiana for college. If the admissions office at Indiana's listening to this, I really want to come to your school. But I have grown closer to Indiana, closer and closer as the year's gone on. I don't think Indiana's as good this year, as good as they were last year. However, Maryland's not good either. I think Michigan won the Loxley-Gaddis trade-off, and I think that Indiana wins this game late. Yeah, I don't like Jack Tuttle, but Indiana's defense is fantastic. Micah McFadden and Tywan Mullen are NFL players. Micah McFadden, definite first-rounder, I think. Could be an All-American, probably first-team All-Big Ten. Yeah, I think Indiana wins this game late. Drew, what do you think?
I think it's gonna end up being Maryland. I don't know. Indiana just cannot score the football, and being on the road, even though Maryland's not that great of an environment, I just don't know if Indiana's gonna put up enough points to knock off the Terrapins.
I think that Indiana has only scored two touchdowns against the Big Ten this year, but they have played Michigan State and Ohio State, 2 highly regarded teams. And I also want to say that Stephen Carr is no Stevie Scott. I still like Ty Freifogel, though. He's really good. Okay, next game.
All right, up next, we have another noon game. Could be for the Big Ten West title. It's either these 2 teams or probably Minnesota. Iowa, number 9, ranked number 2 a few weeks ago, going to Madison, Wisconsin to face the Badgers. Wisconsin, who looked kind of out of the conversation for a while, with a big win against Purdue and a big win what could be against Wisconsin. They have a chance to get back into the conversation. Ryan, how do you feel about this one?
Here's what I think about this game. I think that Wisconsin... It's a cosmic gumbo with Wisconsin. Shout out Detective Crashmore. Wisconsin's defense is really good. Michigan torched their defense. But I still think it's good. Wisconsin's offense, on the other hand, I don't like it at all. Graham Mertz is not that good. And Ches Malusi, Kendrick Pryor's been there for like 7 years. I'm not a fan of their offense, but it's the same way for Iowa. Iowa's offense is awful. It is awful. I think this is a battle of the defenses. I think Iowa's defense comes in clutch. I think Iowa wins this game. I'm taking heavy under here. Probably, I know I don't do final scores, but I'm thinking like 13-10.
Fair. All right, moving on.
Well, hold on. What do you think about this game?
It's kind of a sad one for me because last week Purdue was in the conversation for the Big Ten West. Now it's looking iffy. I think Wisconsin should win this one, though. Wisconsin at home. They haven't really won a huge home game yet this year, but I think this will be the one. It's homecoming. They'll have a lot of excited fans for the noon game. I think they win that game.
Oh, wait a minute. It's not at Kinnick? Oh.
Camp Randall.
It's at Camp Randall. Okay.
Homecoming.
Oh boy, I don't know. Check my Twitter account for my pick on this game. Take my pick back. Follow me on Twitter at RPC versus the World. Next game. Oh, actually, going to the community poll. 46 from the people that have voted. We have 79 voters. 46 say Iowa, and 33 say Wisconsin. So yeah, look on Twitter if you really want my pick for that game.
All right, another noon game this Saturday. Miami, who has not been playing good football, goes on the road to Pittsburgh to play Pitt. Pitt favored by 10.5, 64% of Portage Central. Think Pitt wins that game. Ryan, thoughts?
Listen, here's what I gotta say about Miami. I don't think Miami's good. De'Ara King is just too injury prone for them to stay prominent. Of course, he got hurt again. But for Miami, I think Manny Diaz is the right guy for that job. I like the culture down there in Miami. You just got... I just think Manny is the right guy. However, I love Pitt. Kenny Pickett, dark horse Heisman. I think Pitt wins the ACC this year, which we'll have coming up in later weeks, our conference picks. Drew, what do you think about this game?
I think Pitt wins.
Yeah, Pitt by 1,000,000.
Pitt's been playing really good. Beat Clemson last week. Yeah, Pitt's going to win that game.
Clemson.
We'll talk about that later. All right, another noon game on ABC. Texas on the road goes to Baylor, ranked number 16, in an old battle in the state of Texas. Baylor, again, ranked number 16. They're favored by only 2.5 points at home as the ranked team. 53% of Portage Central thinks the underdog and road team Texas will win this one. Ryan, who do you got?
Oh, boy. This is a tough one because let's see who I picked. Who did I pick in this game? I picked Texas, but this is a tough one. I think Baylor's in the right direction with Dave Aranda. You know what he can bring to the table after he just set up that LSU defense. By the way, Coach O did nothing in that season to win because he got Joe Brady and Dave Aranda on your staff. But listen, Dave Aranda heading Baylor in the right direction. I think Texas bounces back. Not fully back, but they bounce back from the Red River. I think Texas is also in the right direction. I love Sark. I love him. Casey Thompson's good too. Maybe a Heisman contender for next year. So I think Texas wins, and I think Bijan Robinson stays hot.
I agree. I think Texas wins that one. 3:30 on CBS, the SEC game of the week. Or on paper it was, now it really isn't. Number 1, Georgia, the most dominating team in college football, plays Florida in Jacksonville for the world's largest outdoor cocktail party that takes place every year at this neutral site in Jacksonville. Georgia, favored by 14.5, has 76% of the votes from Portage Central to win this game. Ryan, do you agree with the Mustangs?
To an extent, yes. I think Georgia wins, but I think the neutral site propels Florida to cover. Yeah, this will be a test for Stetson if he can truly play with the heart of the SEC. I know Florida's not that good, but it's still Florida. I mean, I think next year, if they don't win this, or if they don't stay close with this game, or at least win out, I think Dan Mullen coaches for his job next year. Next year. So yeah, I'll take Georgia. I mean, yeah, Georgia.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be a close game. It always is with Florida and Georgia. And Florida's knocked off highly ranked Georgia teams in the past. I think they might have a shot at it this week, but I think Georgia ends up winning.
I do think Anthony Richardson could have a coming out party. I don't think Emory Jones can play with this Georgia D. I think this Georgia D is one for the books. I really, really like Jordan Davis, probably an All-American, along with Aiden Hutchinson and maybe George Karlaftis or Kayvon Thibodeau. But yeah, this Georgia defense is legit. So
getting into the Big Ten games, what was supposed to be College Game Day this week and is currently ABC primetime. Ohio State, the number 5 team in the country, hosting number 20 Penn State. Ohio State does not have to go into a whiteout. They get the home crowd and a rare night game for the Buckeyes, as they normally play nooners now. Only 61% of Portage Central thinks Ohio State's going to pull this out, as they're 20-point favorites. Ryan, where are you going with this one?
All right, listen. Last week, we watched this game in the car, coming home from Ann Arbor. It was crazy. Penn State and Illinois, it was just so nuts. Seeing that Penn State couldn't get a touchdown. Well, in this instance, a 2-point conversion, but they couldn't get to the end zone from inside the 5-yard line against Illinois? Illinois! But, listen, settle it down for a second. I think Penn State comes out inspired. They come out with vengeance and revenge for what happened last year. I think, well, in an empty whiteout, Ohio State just goes and slams the door on Penn State last year. I think Jahan Dotson has a big game against this Ohio State defense, which I don't think is that good. However, I think Trevion Henderson rushes for at least 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. Ohio State by 1,000,000.
Yeah, I think Ohio State's going to win a big one, but I think it's going to be close to the first quarter or two. It's going to be James Franklin's last big Ohio State game as coach of Penn State before he leaves this year.
Coaching Carousel episode coming soon.
Yeah, I think James Franklin's gone, just hired a new agent.
Literally minutes ago.
Yeah. So I think the writing's on the wall. I think James Franklin's going to walk away after this season, presumably for USC, but you never know. There's a lot of open head coaching jobs, for example. Not that he would go there, but Washington State is open, and he used to coach there in the past. Or I think he went there. I think him and his wife went there. But, yeah, I think this is James Franklin's last game as the Nittany Lions head coach.
I mean, it's pretty cold in Pennsylvania.
I think he's gone.
Yeah.
So we both have Ohio State for that game. And now lastly, the big game of the week.
Oh, my goodness. I'm so excited.
The big noon game on Fox.
Woo!
Michigan, number 6 in the country, heads west to East Lansing to play the number 8 Michigan State Spartans. Michigan's favored by 4 points, and the fans have voted. 52% of them have picked Michigan to win this one.
53-47.
Ryan?
He has screenshots. I have
Ryan,
the
how are you
actual.
feeling about this?
Listen. Here's everything you need to know about this game. I think this Michigan team is inspired. As we just said, they're inspired. They don't care what anybody thinks about them. They just don't care. They went into Wisconsin, slammed the door on the Badgers. They go to Nebraska. They slam the door late on Nebraska. They go into Lincoln and slam the door late against Nebraska. And you know what? I'm done talking about Michigan State. I'm done talking about Kenneth Walker. I think Michigan wins this game. Let's go. Jim Harbaugh silences all the haters that he can't win big games. I think Michigan wins this game. And I don't think that they can win the Big Ten. But I think Michigan wins this game, stays undefeated, going into Penn State in a couple weeks.
Yeah, so this game for me, I have no dog in the race. Clearly you do, but I'm kind of just a neutral observer. I think it's going to be close to the first half-ish. It always going to be like a sloppy, close game, a few turnovers for both sides. I don't even know if the teams are going to get to double digits at halftime. Probably will. But I think in the second half, I think Michigan's going to win by double digits. They have a great offense. Michigan State's offense is not. They've barely scored a few touchdowns against Indiana. Jim Harbaugh is 2-0 in East Lansing. I think Michigan fans are more confident this year than they've been in a lot of years past.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Which I think they keep it up this week, but I think they'll have a disappointing loss or two before the end of the season. But I do think that Michigan is going to pull it out this week and beat the Fighting Mel Tuckers in East Lansing.
I will say, before we sign off here, that was a little premature screaming there. I'm sorry. I really think that Michigan State is a close game. I think Michigan wins, but it'll be close. Nothing to what I just said right there. So, is that it for this week, Drew?
Believe so.
I need a response here. Okay.
Unless we got an interview.
Okay, listen. I do want to address that. We did plan poorly. We were going to have PC football interviews this week, going into week 1 of the playoffs. However, we don't have time for that. So that'll be coming next week. Border Central plays Jackson this week at McCamley. Yeah, it's playoff football. What else is better than that? NFHS Network, you calling the game?
Yeah, me, Caleb Johnson, my partner, calling the game for the NFHS Network. It'll be a fun time, and should be a decent game.
All right. I think that's going to wrap it up for week 2. We really hope you enjoyed. We had a lot of fun, once again, recording this. If you want to follow the show on Instagram to get your polls in next week, follow the show at The Ryan Canfield Show on Instagram. You want to plug your Twitter?
Okay, we're good.
You don't want to plug your Twitter?
We'll be okay.
You can follow me on Twitter at RPC vs. the World. That's going to do it for week 2. We'll see you later. Go Blue!